In this video, we're going to analyse spring water, rainwater and seawater in terms of pH in the presence of dissolved solids. We're then going to distill seawater to obtain potable water, and we're going to use the results to fill in this table. So as you can see here, I have rainwater, spring water and seawater, and I'm going to transfer 1 centimeter cubed of each using a measuring cylinder, so 1 centimeter cubed is about there, into these 3 test tubes. Now I have 1 centimeter cubed of seawater, spring water and rainwater. So then we're going to add a universal indicator solution to each sample of water, and then we're going to match the color to this chart to find its pH. So the first one we're going to do is seawater. We're going to add a few drops of universal indicator solution. So you can see that the seawater has a pH of around about. The next water sample we're going to test the pH of is the spring water. So once again, we add a few drops of universal indicator solution. The next step is to record the mass of a watch glass, which is this. It looks like a giant contact lens. Okay, it's made out of glass. We need to record the mass of this using a balance. So I'll put this on the balance, and we can see here that the mass is 34.7 grams. Our next step is to measure out 4 centimeters cubed of seawater, which I'm going to measure using this measuring cylinder. Alright, there's the 4, and pour it into our watch glass. That's 4 centimeters cubed, and then we pour it into the watch glass, just like that. Alright, the next step is to light the Bunsen burner, and when we're doing this, we want to make sure that the air hole at the bottom is closed. So you can see there that it's open. We want to turn the collar so that the air hole is closed. Now we're going to use a lit splint just like you would during a practical. Hold it over the mouth of the Bunsen burner, and we're going to turn it on from the tap. Okay, so now we have our safety flame. You'll see as we turn the collar, it allows more oxygen in, and it turns it into a blue flame. Now it's very difficult to see that blue roaring flame in the light. So that's why we can close it and turn it back to the safety flame, so that no one accidentally touches it or it doesn't accidentally start a fire. So this is to avoid injury. We use the safety flame. The next step involves setting up a water bath. You can see that the Bunsen burner is on at the bottom, and it's on a blue flame, not an orange safety flame. That's why you can't see it. We have a tripod, we have a gauze, and then we have a beaker with water in it. And as you can see, the water in the beaker is starting to bubble, which means it's starting to boil. We're then going to take our watch glass with the 4 centimeters cubed of seawater on it, and we're going to place it on top of the water bath. Alright, and over time this will heat up the seawater, and the water will start to evaporate, leaving behind anything that was dissolved in the seawater. So as you can see, the water is bubbling and boiling in the water bath, and it's heating the seawater in the watch glass. And if you look very carefully, you'll see that some white solid is starting to form on the watch glass, which means the water is evaporating and the solid that was dissolved in the water is starting to come out of solution and crystallize. So the solute was this white solid dissolved in the solvent, which was the water. So as you can see, all of the water from the seawater has evaporated and has left behind just the solid. So we're going to turn the Bunsen burner off. Okay, alright, and now I can't touch that with my hand because it's going to be very hot. So we're going to use tongs to very carefully grab the watch glass and very slowly, carefully transfer it onto a heat-proof mat so it can cool down. Now it might have looked like there were some drops of water in the middle, but they are on the bottom of the watch glass. You can see it's turning the heat-proof mat wet, but everything at the top is dry. Okay, so there's the solid that was dissolved in the seawater, and once we let that cool down, we're going to weigh it to measure the mass. So once your watch glass has cooled down, you can move it over to the balance and measure the mass. And you can see that the mass that was 34.7 is now 34.88 grams. Once you've recorded this, you would do the exact same thing with the watch glass and 4 centimeters cubed of spring water and rainwater, and then measure the mass of any dissolved solutes and the watch glass after the water from them has evaporated, and record them in the table. So the next step is to carry out distillation of 40 centimeters cubed of seawater. So you can see here in the conical flask I have 40 centimeters cubed of seawater. I have the Bunsen burner underneath in the blue flame to heat it, and you can see there's a bung with a tube going into a test tube in some ice water. So this makes it really cold, allowing any of the gases to condense. So all of the gases that are forming here when the seawater is boiling are going up the tube and condensing in the test tube. And then we're collecting the distillate here. So once you've got enough distillate, you can see we've collected quite a lot of liquid. You can turn the Bunsen burner off at the tap and let it cool down. You want to make sure you take this tube out to avoid any suck back. So now we want to measure the pH of our distillate, what we collected. We need to measure approximately 1 centimeter cubed of the distillate using a measuring cylinder. And we want to pour this into a test tube. Then we want to add a few drops of universal indicator solution. Just a few drops. And you can see there is a color change. If I hold it against the white background, you can see it's gone very light green, and that tells us that the pH is 7. Which means it's neutral. Now we want to record the mass of another watch glass. So this time the mass is 34.72 grams. And we want to add 4 centimeters cubed of our distillate to this watch glass. So we're going to use our measuring cylinder to measure out 4 centimeters cubed. And there we have 4 centimeters cubed. You can see that the bottom of the meniscus is touching the 4 centimeter cubed line. We then want to pour this into our next watch glass and heat it again, just like we did with the seawater, rainwater, and spring water. So we're going to put that on top of our water bath and let the water evaporate again. Okay, so once all of the water has evaporated from the watch glass and it is dry, you can turn off the Bunsen burner and remove the watch glass using tongs. Remember that the watch glass will still be very hot, so very carefully remove it and leave it to cool down. Alright, once your watch glass has cooled down enough for you to touch it, then you can put it onto the balance and record the mass. Whereas before, when we measured the empty watch glass, before we added the distillate, it was 34.72. So you can see here it's 34.72 again, which means that no solids have been left behind on the watch glass. All of the water has evaporated and nothing has been left behind. The mass has stayed the same before and after.